Hi everybody, this is Dave Patronik, PGA Associate Instructor at Woods to Wedges. I'm here today with part 2 of my segment, What's in My Bag. Today I'll be talking about the wedges that I play. So we'll start with the two wedges, my 45-degree wedge and my 50-degree U wedge. They actually match my iron set. They're the Ping I-210 irons with the KBS Tour 120 stiff shaft in steel. The reason I want to match my pitching wedge and my gap wedge to my iron set is I usually hit those wedges with full swing, square face. Sometimes I'll take off a little bit of distance with those wedges, but I'm not really manipulating the face a lot. So when people come in for fittings, they ask, should I get a custom lofted wedge for my pitching wedge, gap wedge? I don't really think it's necessary with those clubs if you're using a full swing or a square face when you hit those shots. So that's why I match those to my iron set. As far as the gapping, I have 5 degrees between all of my wedges. I carry a 45-degree pitching wedge, 50-degree U wedge, utility wedge or gap wedge, and then I go down to I have a 56-degree sand wedge, actually bent to 55 degrees, and I have a 60-degree lob wedge. So I have 5 degrees between all of my wedges. The recommendation is between 4 and 6 degrees. So I find that 5 degrees gives me nice coverage for every shot I want to hit inside of about 130 yards. My 56-degree wedge is a Ping Glide 3.0. Standard sole is 56 bent to 55 with 12 degrees of bounce. Because I bent it, it's effectively 11 degrees of bounce, so a little less bounce. My 60-degree wedge is a Ping Glide 3.0 thin sole. It has 6 degrees of bounce. The reason I have more of a mid bounce and a low bounce wedge is because of the different variety of turf conditions and sand conditions that we experience in Western New York. When I go out to play in the spring or after it rains a lot, we want to have a little bit of a higher bounce wedge. So my standard sole wedge has a little bit more material under the leading edge. About 11 degrees is the angle between the leading edge and the trailing edge of this wedge. So this wedge, as we swing, is not going to dig into the ground as much. It's going to skim along the turf. So if it's wet conditions, softer turf conditions, or softer sand, this wedge is more beneficial to use than a thin sole wedge, which is going to dig a lot. We don't want to dig when it's very soft conditions. Conversely, if we get into the middle of the summer and conditions start to firm up, or we're playing a course with tighter fairways, having a thin sole wedge with a little bit less effective bounce is beneficial. This wedge is going to allow me to open the face more, hit a variety of shots, and I do like to use my 60-degree wedge to manipulate the face, hit higher, softer shots. Also use this out of bunkers in Western New York, usually tend to be a little firmer, so I find myself using the 60 a little bit more than the 56-degree wedge bent to 55 because of the conditions that we normally encounter. If we have firm, packed sand, you want to use your low bounce wedge. If you have softer, fluffier sand, you want to use a mid bounce or even a high bounce wedge. So those are the wedges that I carry. If you have any questions along the way, my email is dspatronik@hotmail.com. Looking forward to seeing you all in our next segment. I'm going to talk about my iron set. Take care. Hope everyone's doing well, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.